Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to Conversations with Robin. Conversations that empower, inspire, and enlighten. Every week, we have different guests on our show where we understand how did they become the person that they are today. So sit back, relax as we deep dive and enjoy the ride. So this morning, I have Aaron Washburn on Conversations with Robin. I am so honored to have you on, Aaron. Thank you for being here today.
Super excited. Thank you, Robin.
So Aaron Washburn is a visionary and leader in holistic healing and emotional mastery. Aaron Washburn is a renowned expert in holistic healing, emotional regulation, and personal transformation. His journey into the world of well-being was marked by a profound personal experience that ignited his passion for empowering individuals to take control of their emotional and physical health. Aaron's mission is clear: to guide individuals on a journey of self-discovery, emotional regulation, and holistic healing, creating profound and lasting change from within, feeling heard, seen, and loved. That is beautiful, Aaron. What is emotional mastery and how can someone achieve it?
Beautiful. First question. Emotional mastery and how can someone achieve it? Emotional mastery is being able to identify what you're actually feeling in your body and then being able to continually 110% recommit to yourself into feeling those negative emotions, those uncomfortable emotions. So emotional regulation, being able to identify what you're actually feeling, and then to master it is to be able to master the three levels. And the three levels are awareness, level one, level two is emotional regulation, and then level three, self-mastery. By the time you get to self-mastery of level three, you're just going to continue repeating level one and level two. Because as we go through our life, we're always going to uh, know new parts or discover new parts of ourselves as we're molding into who we want to become. And the more we discover more parts of ourselves, it taps us back into level one, which is awareness. And then we got to regulate whatever no longer serves us as far as triggers or old beliefs or any self-sabotaging habits that no longer serve us anymore. So being able to master your emotions is to be able to fully 110% recommit to yourself and always step into your courage to feel those negative emotions to create the change that you want to become.
Yes, yeah. How, if someone, is it possible that someone cannot be aware of their emotions or not necessarily know how to control their emotions? I feel like that happens every
And
day.
without awareness, you can't change.
Right.
So, so those that may not be aware of what they're actually feeling, there's a powerful conscious language that you can use, kind of like what we did when I said Grand Horizon. We got to choose a language, and it's conscious language. If people aren't aware that they're feeling a certain emotion and it's underneath their awareness, but it's active,
Hmm.
then what they can say out loud, because it'll turn their body on and they'll actually start to feel the emotions in their body, is I give myself permission to feel my feelings and it's okay. Now, some people might be like this, like body language is very important. I give myself permission to feel my feelings and it's okay. The body's like, whoa, it's been years since I felt my feelings. I'm not ready for that.
Hmm.
I give myself permission to feel my resistance in feeling my feelings and it's okay.
Hmm.
And then your body's like, what are you doing? But okay, let me feel my feelings. And then you might feel tightness in your chest, you might feel tightness in your throat, tightness in your back. Those are all indicators of what you're feeling if you don't know what you're feeling. So that's how someone can start if they're not aware, but maybe they're aware of wanting to be aware
Hmm.
of inactive or active emotions that are underneath your awareness. So as we go on in our lives, any feelings buried alive never dies.
Right.
So if you bury a feeling, it's still alive.
Yeah.
It's just underneath your awareness. It's active, and it's causing a lot of dis-ease in your body if it's active
Hmm.
and you're not aware of it and you're not regulating it.
Right, right. And I'm one that truly believes that if we are not dealing with a certain emotion and it just lays dormant, because like you said, it never dies and it just lays dormant, then that can cause us a lot of physical disease too. Your body starts to just shut down. And then maybe that's when people can develop, diseases and stuff like that. What led you down this path of holistic healing?
It started out when I was 17 years old. I'll give you a little short story to kind of lead you into what started me here.
Mhm.
17 years old, I was just getting out of school and I walked into my apartment, my parents' apartment. I was still living with my parents. I was 17, left school, walked inside. My parents told me to come to the back of the room on a normal day, told me to come back into the room. And when I did, my mom was in the bathroom, my dad was to the left of me. And uh, my dad took about 30 seconds to tell me what was actually going on, but I just felt something was off. So when I looked at my dad, I'm like, what's going on? And he looked at me and he said, Aaron, your mom has been diagnosed with lung cancer.
Mm,
My mom was working 3 jobs as a nurse. And over time, I was seeing her, uh, seeing the impact of stress that was having on her body
mhm,
and just in general her health. And when he told me that, I just went completely, like my mind just went completely blank. I really didn't know what lung cancer was at the time, but
mhm,
I did know that when he said it, I
mhm,
felt a sense of like an end in my mom, like a sense of death when he
mm,
said it, left his mouth. And for for the 3 stages of lung cancer that she went through, I was just seeing her body just deteriorate. Her whole left side was completely numb. And then she was just gargling, as in like
mm,
whatever was in her lungs
mhm,
was reaching up into her throat, and her body was just being taken over by it. And then one night, she gave each and every one of us a hug, and that hug just felt different. And I don't know how she did it, but she mustered up the strength to give us a hug on her left side,
mm,
which was the side that was numb.
mhm,
And it was a very strong, very powerful hug that it just felt like goodbye.
mm,
Next morning came along, and the only thing that was keeping her alive was the oxygen tank. And my dad finally said it was ready. She was ready to go. Her eyes were rolled up back of her head. I was at the end of her bed just watching her just take these shallow breaths. And my dad actually asked me to pull the plug, and I kind of rediscovered that 2 years ago.
wow.
There was a lot to regulate. There was a lot to regulate, but I did suppress that, and I didn't know that I pulled it. But my dad couldn't do it.
Mhm,
So then I went back to the end of the bed, and I looked at my mom, and I watched her take her last breath.
mm,
But I didn't cry, and because I didn't cry for years, I felt like I was a bad kid, bad son.
mm,
And um, in 2012, when she did take her last breath, when she did pass, I remember I had to call my uncle. I had to do a lot of things that my dad couldn't do.
mm, mhm,
And I always had to keep thinking about, okay, I have to call Uncle Rick and I have to call everybody else. I didn't have time to grieve. And years went by. I'd say about 8 years up until 2020. I was just in a state of depression. I remember
mm,
sleeping all the time. I didn't spend time with my brother when he needed me, but I was just sleeping all the time. And I would work out to kind of fight my demons and fight my emotions.
mhm,
And then in 2020, I quit my personal training job to go full time in my entrepreneur journey.
mm,
And my mentor at the time was always meditating. I was like, well, if I want to become successful, let me start meditating as well,
mhm,
not realizing the benefits I was going to get from it. So I meditated for an hour. And
mhm,
when I did, I had this surge of energy go throughout my entire body. Like it was some mystical type of love Joe Dispenza would
would describe it as something mystical, mystical love, unconditional love. Surged throughout my body. For those that understand chakras, it just felt like my chakras are completely aligned, and I restored balance and harmony back in my body. And then I saw the world differently. I just felt completely loved. I felt one with everything. And then I was just high off of life for that whole week. And then I got hit with depression really hard again. And I was like, whoa, oh no. And there's this quote that I always remember. And it goes, you cannot solve the same problem with the same level of thinking that created them. And um, I remember trying to go back to working out to feel better, go back to my old addictions to feel better. I remember trying to take a nap to feel better. And then none of it worked. And I tried to work out again. And then a part of me was like, after I was crying, I was like, none of it is working. I want to feel high off of life again. And then I had this voice come in my head and it said, stay still. Okay. So you want me to stay still? Okay, let's see what comes up from here. So I went to sit down on my bed, and then I just started crying and crying. And then I had this memory pop up in my mind of seeing my mom pass away again. And then I started crying even more. And then I saw my 17-year-old self look over my mom again in 2020 in my 23-year-old body. And I shifted inside of my 17-year-old self, seeing my mom pass away again, taking her last breath. But this time my 17-year-old self was crying. I actually let the tears out. I was just sobbing. I was crying, seeing my mom take her last breath. And then it was as if I was feeling it in my body currently as well in 2020. Then I shifted back into my the version of myself, watching my 17-year-old self. And I walked up to him and I said, I see you, I hear you, and I love you. And I gave him a hug. And then when I looked back into my 17-year-old's eyes, it went from feeling sadness, feeling lost and confused that my mom's passed away, into feeling loved, into feeling compassion, into feeling cared for. And then it's like our bodies merged together. And from that point, I opened my eyes and I saw the world differently. I was no longer depressed again. Every holiday, I didn't feel sad as much as I used to. So in that story alone, I learned the three concepts. The three concepts where anything that you imagine or anything that happened in the past, your body's going to experience those feelings as if it's happening again.
Right.
And then concept number two is you get to be the parent to that child that child needed during that time in that memory, which is what I did. And then number three is the butterfly effect, meaning that if you reframe that memory emotionally, if I went back to my 17-year-old self and I see you, I hear you, and I love you, and he feels that shift in my body is experiencing both at the same time, then the butterfly effect happens where I no longer have the same triggers that no longer benefit me anymore. I naturally and automatically just shifted those or just depleted those triggers, and now I have the ability to respond every single holiday where I don't have that same reaction. And then once I knew that, I completely got myself out of that depression stage, and I've helped other people do the same thing by reframing their memories. And then number two is on my left side, we're going to dive really deep into this because it's fun. If you split your body in half, if you split your body in half, left side is your receiving and feminine side, right side is your masculine doing side. I had sciatica pain on my left side for 8 years after my mom passed, and it started when my mom passed.
Wow.
And then after I regulated that and finally felt that grief, transmuted that energy, that grief was active underneath my awareness. I didn't realize that for a long time. But once I regulated it, then the sciatica pain went away. Left side is about being understood and withholding emotions, being understood. If I express my feelings about my mom, about her passing, no one's going to understand me. No one had their mom pass away at 17 years old, but that was a belief that I had. And then when I understood it and I was there for myself, then I can move forward now in being understood about my mom's passing. My sciatica pain went away for good. And knowing the three concepts and knowing the psychosomatic aspect of it all too, the mind and body connection, I've seen a lot of miracles happen, but those miracles are actually normal. We're just rediscovering it because we lost connection with ourselves. And when we lose connection with ourselves, our body's like, let me give you this deliberating pain right now so you can go back inside in yourself right now and notice me and hear me on the parts that I need to be heard. Notice me or see me on the parts I need to be seen. So that's what led me on this journey of trying to find the best method and the most effective method, and a lot of methods in ways where if my one method that I feel works for me, I have another method that will work for you, because your language is different than mine and your language can be different from them. And if I don't have yours, I'll find it, or I know someone that does. So that's what led me into this journey of self-discovery and healing, to empower those that feel lost, that feel need to be heard, seen, and loved, so that others can feel served or heard, seen, and loved as well.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that powerful story. There's so many things that I want to touch on within that story, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry about your mom's passing. And to be so young. And like you said, you were having to do things that your dad couldn't do. Were you the oldest?
I was middle.
The
The
middle.
oldest was actually in the army, going through basic training, and my mom was trying to stay alive until he came back, but she wasn't able to.
Wow.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
was a middle child.
So it's like you had to be the oldest at that time
Yes.
for your
Yeah.
brother. When you talked about meditation and you did an hour meditation because you know that your mentor was meditating and you were doing what your mentor is doing, of course, because you see them being successful. For that meditation, was that your first time meditating and that out of body experience happened for you?
Yes, first
Wow.
time.
Yeah, yeah. That's very cool. I love to meditate and I do it in the morning. As first when I get up. The first thing I do is when I get up. But even when you were describing going back to your 17-year-old self, and you actually see your 17-year-old self with your mom and you're back in that room. It's like you were going into that dimension. And I'm a big believer in different dimensions. And I mean, I can
I
take,
love
but
it.
it's amazing how how our minds play a big role on our lives, because if we can see it, then we can create it. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that you had to go back into your 17-year-old self to heal yourself fully, so that's beautiful. Thank you for
Wow.
sharing that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How is the interconnection between your emotions, excuse me, your emotions in your body and your mind? How's it all related?
So if you think of the laws of the universe, and for example, Dr. Dan Woodruff, he actually made this analogy a lot better for me, from the mind, the emotions, and the body. Is that if you take a block of ice, that block of ice is like your body, and if you melt that block of ice, it turns into water. That's your emotions. And if you heat up that water and you boil it, then it starts to turn into steam. That's your thoughts. That's your mind. So it's really cool because if I have pain in my left knee, that manifestation of the emotion that you're not feeling is turning into physical pain in your left knee, or your physical environment around you. People that get into car accidents, there's a reason why that happened. Um, and it's nothing happens by accident. It all happens by purpose and synchronicities. You created it, essentially. And I had this nurse that had left knee pain, and she was talking about her daughter. She was talking about her sister, how much anger that she had. Anytime you have some left knee pain, I mean, it's on the left side. Remember, it's your feminine side. We started to express the anger towards her sister and her daughter, and then we did some inner dialogue conversation. She got to be a parent to that child of her during that time, and she went into anger into love, and then we did forgiveness from love to her sister and her daughter, and that knee pain actually moved it started to move because it went from physical pain to energy and motion again. Well, it's still energy, it's just stuck there. Then went energy and motion. Emotions are just energy and motion. And then we got it into motion again. And then it went away. Knowing that if there's any pain in the body, and we know that energy is in motion, if it's not in motion, then it's stuck somewhere in your body. Your body has to store it somewhere. There's this book called The Body Keeps the Score. I forgot who's it by, but he explains this phenomenon. And then you get to move and transfer and transmute that energy. So the mind and body connection, everything works as a unit. In society right now, we split everything up. You go to your acupuncture, you go to your chiropractor, you go to your doctor. But if you work your body as a unit, as it's designed to work as, then you can make faster and more effective and permanent change in your body. You're saying if you can see it, you can create it. And it goes the same thing pretty close to what I say is whatever the neurology accepts, or whatever the neurology creates, it accepts. And that's what's powerful, because as a hypnotist, I'm not doing the suggestions. I'm giving them strong suggestions. Sometimes I do, but I actually say, if they're back in their memory, I actually say, you know exactly what to say to that child that child needed to hear during that time. And when you're ready, you can say it. And then as they're saying it, I'm not the one saying it for them. Their neurology is creating it, and then they'll accept the healing. And it's so cool to see, because you see a shift in their body. So yeah, the mind and body connection, that just knowing how our body works as a unit can make very strong and effective, long-lasting change in the body.
Yeah. It definitely works as a whole. Literally just works as a whole. Your background is also in hypnotherapy and body language as well. How did you get into hypnotherapy and body language? That's always fascinated me, hypnotherapy.
Yeah. I actually started out with just understanding the mind at first. I didn't really connect the body. It was very interesting. When I was doing fitness training for a while, I was doing online fitness training, and then I would have these check-ins with my clients, and they wouldn't work out. Sometimes they'd have struggle to, or a challenge to work out. I didn't really talk about, hey, you gotta go work out, you gotta do this. I wasn't that type of person anymore after I meditated for that long and then doing some inner child work on myself. I was talking to them and I was just listening to them. I'm like, what's going on today?
Yeah.
And they're just saying, yeah, my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And then they started to vent to me, and then they worked out after, and I didn't mention anything about it. They just naturally felt inspired to work out. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I just started doing more mindset calls. And I remember having this call with one of my clients, and she's like, I don't know what to do, but I really want to do something close to you or what you're doing. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
And like, I was really transforming her life by what I was saying. I don't even know what I was saying until after I was watching the recording. I'm like, did I say that? Wow. So it's like I had this wisdom coming out of me. And I guess from then I realized that, okay, I'm starting to tap into some part of myself I didn't know existed. And that was the time when I was growing my beard as well. And I felt like my beard was my wisdom beard. And then when I shaved it one time, it went away, but it wasn't that. And then once I started learning about more of the mind, I had my business mentor had this mindset coach, and he would do it every week. His name is Adrian Moreno, and he's a hypnotist, and he kept sharing, like, we had these group calls, and I'd just be seeing all the work he was doing. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. He had this podcast. I forget what the podcast is called. And in that podcast, this guy named Brian Johnson was speaking about body language translations. And he would be reading Adrian Moreno. And then, like, if Adrian Moreno had shoulder pain in his left shoulder, he would say, repeat after me, I give myself permission, all that. And then he just started crying. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. I want that fast, effective change like that. So I started learning Brian Johnson's work, and I started learning about the emotions and where the emotions show up in the body. And then I started doing body language translation for a whole year, where it took me some time to believe that it actually works.
Mhm.
I had to do the work myself for the whole year. And then after learning the body language translations, I'm like, okay, this is a very fast and effective change. And then I started seeing Adrian Murrow post more about hypnosis. And I'm like, hypnosis is pretty fast too. Let me learn about hypnosis even more now. So I took a year learning about hypnosis. Then when I got the hypnosis and the body language translations, I'm using hypnosis and body language translations together, the mind and then the body. And then now I'm connecting them as a unit where I'm like, okay, so now I know how to put someone under hypnosis really fast just by getting them to think about a memory. Anybody that thinks about a memory is
Yeah.
in the memory. They're not talking to me right now. So they're already under hypnosis. And then their body's like, yeah, or my mom used to do this. They're using their hands. The hands are speaking to me as well. My mom used to do this to me as she's scratching her left shoulder. This is about self. This is about others on the other side. So self, she's scratching her left shoulder, and her left shoulder is about burdens. So she's like burden self about her mom. So I'm able to translate all that, and then I'm saying things like, "What was your relationship like with your mother?" And then she just starts crying, and then she's like, "It feels like there's a weight on me. There's a weight on me, my shoulders." I'm like, okay. Then I just give her these prompts to say out loud to be able to transmute that energy using conscious language. So that's how I got into hypnotherapy, from body language translations first. And once I understand the mind and the body together with body language translation and connected them together, then I could put someone in hypnosis fast without them realizing it. And then by the time they're done, they're like, whoa, what just happened? They just feel completely different in like seconds, in seconds.
Mhm.
So it just really inspired me to learn that, because I love having conversations with people that might not be aware of what's going on,
Yes.
where even if it's too much for them to do healing, or even them accepting that they need to do healing,
Mhm.
I could do it covertly to them where
Yeah.
they don't know. I'm talking to a stranger, they have shoulder pain. I say these exact words that they want to hear, and they walk away with no more shoulder pain. They don't realize it though. So that's how I got into hypnotherapy and body language translations.
So even with, I love that you that it's all begins with mindset and conscious thinking. But
Yeah.
like you said, you can have a conversation with someone and they're not even aware of what's deep down bothering them. But when you just bring it up just in conversation, it's like it relaxes them for some reason. And I really
Mm-hmm.
believe that like your energy too really helps along that way,
Absolutely.
and you just have this such relaxed energy about yourself. And I feel like when that happens, people just open up and just want to talk to you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It did take me some time to see that happening,
Yeah,
where I just had this energy. They would sit down, and then it was like I see it as like I guess it's your aura, or
yeah,
like an orb.
yeah,
And as soon as they enter my orb, it's like the heart is open. My heart is open. And just to share this too, real quick, is they didn't used to do this in the past until I started opening my heart up, meaning until I started doing the own work on myself,
hmm,
where I started becoming vulnerable. I started becoming authentic.
yes,
And when I start becoming vulnerable and authentic, then it gives them the chance. It gives them permission to feel vulnerable as well, where they can open up. Because even as I'm talking, they'll feel my energy, but I'm expressing things that I never used to express in the past. And they're like, "Whoa, thank you for sharing that with me." It creates that instant rapport where they start to share what's going on in their life, where I already knew it, but now they're sharing it, and I'm like, "Wow, this is powerful."
yeah.
And once that clicked for me, I'm like, "Okay, I, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to do this work in this lifetime."
Yes, yeah. Well, and it's funny how like little things, I like to call them synchronicities because I'm a big
Yes.
synchronicity person. But little signs or the way that you started off as a trainer and you just
Mhm.
guided yourself there, but it was already meant to be in your path.
Yes.
You mentioned the masculine and feminine. And I'm a big believer that we have to be in balance of masculine and feminine energy. And when we're out of balance, it's like our life is in chaos, kind of, you know. Do you Are you a big believer with masculine and feminine energy? I know I feel like that word kind of gets thrown around a lot too nowadays, but it's something that really needs to be balanced in order
Mm.
for us to live out in our purpose.
Yeah, I absolutely do believe in masculine and feminine energy. And I think for me, at least for my definition of that, is as a man, I, especially with the family that I grew up with, I was always looked at as like, hey, you're feeling your emotions, you're not a man. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay. And then I started feeling my emotions and my feelings, and I had a deeper connection with everybody. I'm
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, I'm a man. I'm a man. Like I'm a man more than I was then because I know more of myself. I know deeply parts of myself, and I'm able to express those deep secrets or dark secrets. All my dark secrets are in the light, and um, being able to feel my emotions, I feel like in a state of feeling is in a state of receiving.
Yeah.
And if I'm receiving and I'm not doing is the masculine part and I'm just receiving, then I'm in a state of femininity. I'm going to allow myself to cry. I'm going to allow myself to just express how I feel um, with no judgment. And since I've been doing that, so since I've been doing and since I've been doing and receiving, I've been able to balance out what my body's saying to me, where I'm continually, every single second of my day, I'm restoring balance and harmony back in my body. So masculine energy and feminine energy, we need that. And if we didn't allow for masculinity and femininity to be just what it is, um, then you're going to experience a lot of imbalance in your life, not in just your life, but in your body. And it starts with your body first, because your body is putting this vibration out. Your mind is putting this frequency out. And if you're not mastering both ends of masculinity and femininity, you're going to experience a lot of disharmony in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. With you having the background of um emotional mastery, you also help nurses as well, right? As
Yes.
far as with your clients. And how did you come into helping nurses or specializing, or I don't know if I should say specializing, but in the nurse realm or field? How did you get into that?
So my mom was a nurse for 3 years, or not 3 years. My mom was a nurse for a very long time. I'm not sure how many years she was a nurse for. But in 2020, or at least 2019, I was doing a lot of training, and for some reason, I started attracting a lot of nurses.
Mm. Wow.
And
For some reason,
there's
huh?
this, yeah, some reason. And then I met this one lady. Her name is Tara. She was in nursing school and then became an RN. I'm super proud of her. She completely changed her body. And then she was just like a very good example for these nurses on waking up at 4 a.m. whenever she did. And then just training her after a while, I started, getting into that mindset. And then I just started attracting more nurses. And then eventually it came to a point where I was doing healing for nurses. And then I'm going to certify them in my process so that way they can start doing healing for more nurses or other people. And nurses, it was the other day, maybe about 6 months ago. So I wouldn't say the other day, but I had this um, basically this mission statement that I had that really came to me because I really want to help everybody.
Yes.
But if I helping everybody at this moment, then um, I wouldn't know where to start.
Hmm.
So then it clicked for me because nurses, they see a lot of patients. I
Yes.
don't know how many patients today, but they see a lot. So if they see a lot of patients and I can teach them this process, not even if I don't teach them, if I just get them to a state of feeling heard, seen, and loved, then they're operating in a vibrational state of love. Love is undefeated. It's unbeatable. And if they're going from a state of burnout into a state of love and they go back to the hospital, that vibration of love where they're no longer reactive from the people around them or the patients yelling at them, they touch anger with love. Let's say a patient yells at them, they still feel loved, they don't feel reactive, and they see and hear the patient where they're actually at. That patient's like, whoa, they just disarmed his anger.
Yeah.
And then they're like, whoa. And then now they feel vulnerable. Now they feel authentic to express how they're feeling, where they leave the hospital and now they know how to kind of like just bring awareness and they'll find the help. You know, universe is always like that. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yep.
Where then the patient doesn't have to keep coming back to the hospital like a subscription. That means this healthcare is shifting from into a more positive healthcare. So that's been my mission, is to be able to shift the healthcare system from where it's at to a more positive one, but doing it covertly, because everything starts and ends with a feeling. If I'm touching all these nurses with love and they feel loved, then they're going to go into the hospital with no more reactions from the 3 concepts that we talked about earlier. They no longer have the reactions that no longer serve them, to where they're going to the hospital, they're seeing these patients where there actually are the deeper parts of them. Like, they're seeing them as, okay, you're angry right now. There's an inner child in you that's angry. Let me say the exact words, and then they feel loved. And then it just completely shifts. Now that patient is no longer angry at the next nurse or angry at somebody else turning them off. They're going to be coming from a place of love. That person's going to come from a place of love, and then just causes a shift without people knowing that I'm actually doing it. So that's how I started working with nurses, and that's how I started to discover why I'm working with nurses now, to be able to cause that shift, to help more people by helping nurses, starting with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And you're so right, because it's like when we do come from a place of love, our vibration vibrates so much higher. And no matter what is coming at us, and I guess not, I shouldn't say no matter what is coming at us, but when things are coming at us, we're no longer in that reactive mindset. We're not reacting to what's happening. And that creates such a big difference. And like you said, energy just transforms. So it's pushing off to the next person, and they're doing it to the next person, and it becomes like a chain reaction. So I think that is so cool. I know you've mentioned that you've had a mentor. I'm a big believer in mentorship. How has a mentor helped you along your path that you're on your journey?
At first, it was my mentor. It was Sterling, and he was just a mentor and teaching me how to run my online business. Thankfully, because at first it was just a business aspect, but I think with anybody that goes into business or entrepreneur, you're going into the spiritual side as well, because you get to know the deepest parts of yourself that you didn't believe you're worthy of. And that's when it all started for me. I remember when I first started, I was laying in my apartment on the floor, and I was just crying. It was dark in there, and I was like, "Oh my God, is this even for me?" Like, I was like, "Nothing's working, nothing's working." And I just remember that time where I just felt so defeated. But having that mentor really kept me learning the things I needed to learn, and then doing the things I needed to do, reminding me to do it. And then he was bought out by a guy named Mike Chu, and Mike Chu was actually having those calls with his entrepreneur friends to talk about meditation, and I went through that meditation that I told you about. And then from there, just having that business mentor really helped. But there was something more I was being led to, and then I met Brian Johnson. That one was powerful because I always feel like a student to the work that I teach.
Yes.
Because we're feeling our emotions every single day, so I'm always a student and always recommitting to myself to feel my feelings. If I'm coming from a place where my student can't see it but my teacher can, then I can reach out to him and then be like, okay, I'm feeling this in my back, how do I process this to get the pain away? Then he can walk me through it, and that one was powerful. Then when I started learning hypnosis, then I had another mentor, Leonard Johnson, and he's been doing hypnosis for over like 50 years. So he's been in the mind game for a long time. So it just gives me the power to be able to say, hey, I have this client that is going through this. How can I help her? And then he gives me the ideas of what he's been through and experience to help his clients get through the similar experience that she's trying to get through. So having a mentor is very powerful. And sometimes, even if you know the stuff, oftentimes we don't need to learn it. We just need to be reminded.
Yeah.
And that was very powerful because we do have curveballs in our life where we're going to need that higher guidance to continue to keep us on the path that we're going with those curveballs. Because and those curveballs will only exist at times too is when you're letting go of parts of yourself that no longer serve you. So your reality starts to shift to let go. And these are the moments where you need that guidance, because if I didn't have one of my other friends, her name is Charlotte Neiman, and she didn't send me this card. She does tarot reading. She sent me this card that says Metamorphosis. The past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been going through that. And I'm like, damn, there's a lot of things going on, but I'm choosing to respond instead of react, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And it really changed the game for me where, okay, I'm going through this right now. Oh, my old reaction's coming up. I choose to love my fear into my faith and courage. I shifted it right away. And then now I'm coming from a place of, all right, how do I want to respond to this? And now since I'm coming from a new place of responding, then my reality is going to be different. That means I'm no longer going to have that same reality because of that same trigger. So mentorship is powerful because you're always going to have that person to remind you, okay, you're going through this right now. This is what's going on. And this is what you need to do. It helped kept me on that path that I'm continuing to discover so much more. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm looking forward to all the gifts within each moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and two, I feel like being an entrepreneur, you need mentors because you need people that's been where you've been and they're feeling what you're or they have felt what you're feeling. I love that you had multiple mentors too, because that's important because not everyone is for just one thing. So I love that you said that. And then also with feeling the emotions every day, because like you said, our emotions are constantly changing. That's the only thing that's really that stays the same is change. It's for someone that, you know, it's not like you're creating happiness or we're always going to feel happy. How important is it to feel your emotions where you are at that very moment, even if it's sadness, even if it's, you know, grief, even if it's depression, and then the next day you're happy and, you know, you're joyful or you see a shift in perspective. But how important is it to feel through those emotions that you're having at that very moment?
That's such a very powerful question right there. Because I feel like at this point in our life, not a lot of people understand the importance of feeling those very uncomfortable feelings. And I have a 2-year-old daughter. So if my daughter runs up to me and she's crying, I don't know if you hear her crying right now, but she's crying and she's running up to me and I turn my back on her and I walk away, she's not going to feel safe to express that sadness or that hurt. And the more that I do that, the harder it is for me to be able to help her feel safe and trusted to express those emotions. And essentially, we do that to our own self too. We turn our back on ourselves whenever we're feeling a negative emotion. And then we don't feel safe expressing it to others, but it's not to others, it's actually to yourself. You don't feel safe expressing it to yourself because others are just a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
On the deepest unconscious parts of you. So if you keep turning your back on your emotions, the more disconnected you'll feel with yourself, and the harder it starts to become to allow yourself to feel your emotions. I give myself permission. Your body's gonna be like, nope, you haven't felt your emotions for 10 years. My daughter will be like, nope, you haven't felt my emotions in 10 years. It's the same thing. So it's very important because number one, you get to have a deeper connection with yourself. and start rebuilding that trust with yourself when you start allowing yourself to feel your emotions. And number two, when you start allowing yourself to feel your emotion, you feel connected, but also you feel like you trust yourself. You start to understand, you start to understand yourself to a point where when you start understanding yourself, you start understanding the people around you. Because not only do you see anger coming out of them, but you also see the deep sadness of them instead of the anger. Then you can talk to them at a level like, hey, it's okay to feel sad. And then like, I don't feel sad. They start crying. But it's important. There's so many factors into what happens when you don't feel your emotions that it's just, people don't realize that when you have pain in your body, it suppresses emotions as well. So being able to just hold space for that negative emotion for 90 seconds, awareness, just having the awareness of the emotion is love. And even if you don't know what to do, love will touch that part of you that will help you feel better. But you'll feel better when you feel bad first, and then you'll feel better. So see those negative emotions, see those triggers, parts of yourself as if it's your inner child or your loved one. And when you see your loved one, you want to give them a hug right away, just let them feel seen, heard, and loved, the same way we should do for ourselves. And when we do that, then your life just starts to dramatically get better, feeling your negative emotions. And we just assign negative emotions because they feel uncomfortable. They're just emotions, like any other positive emotion. And when you feel it more, then you connect with that part of yourself more. Hey, anger, welcome back. How can I help you? Like once you feel more anger and just hold space for it and don't act through anger, then you get to familiarize what anger is inside of you. And then when anger comes back up, you're like, oh, I felt you before. Welcome back. How can I help you? Like, where can I see you? Once you feel sadness, get used to knowing what sadness feels like in your body. And then when sadness comes back, you realize that you're not your sadness, you're not your fear, you're not your anxiety. You're just experiencing it in your body, holding space for it. We don't have to identify with those feelings. We're just experiencing it.
Yes.
In our life as human beings, not human doers, we just need to be and experience those feelings because that's what keeps our body moving. That's what keeps you more trusted with yourself. That's what keeps you feeling worthy enough to have these deep connection relationships. Like me and you, like in the past, if I didn't feel my feelings, I wouldn't feel worthy to be on your show. It's different for other people. So that's the importance of feeling your negative emotions and just feel it with just awareness at first and don't judge it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I have enjoyed this conversation, Aaron. As we come to a close, I want to ask you a few questions that I ask all my guests. What or who is God or the divine to you?
Anytime that I experience love and anytime that I send love, the God and divine is love. And love is interchangeable with God. God is love. The divine is love. Your love. This desk is love. My shirt is love. So that would be my definition of God and the divine is you can interchange those words together. God holds the same vibration as love. Love holds the same vibration as God in my definition and the divine. And love. Yeah.
Okay. What is your spiritual practice?
Spiritual practice, believe it or not, is actually emotional regulation. And the reason is because for me, it works the fastest. If I'm feeling a little low on some day and I regulate my emotions, I have a deeper connection with myself. When I have a deeper connection with myself, I have a deeper connection with others. When I have a deeper connection with others, I have a deeper connection with God.
Oh, that's powerful. All right. How do you define purpose?
Love. And the reason is because if I'm in a state of love, I take action fast. I take on opportunities fast. Where purpose, I have my clients do high vibe activities, doing the things that you love that raises your vibration. So if you haven't, if it's a nurse and you haven't done your hair in a long time, go do your hair, go take a bath, do whatever it is that raises your vibration. Because when you tap into the state of love, then you're in a state of purpose. You're in a state of passion. Doing this with you right here, this is my purpose because it's coming from a state of love. And I've been getting paid energetically with love. So love leads me into places where I did not even know existed, which my purpose is to rediscover how deeply love that I can give and feel, to where as a byproduct, it becomes my purpose, because I'm tapping into my, I guess what some spiritual people would say is my soul contract that I was designed to do in this world, is come into the state of love myself. And as a byproduct, it taps me into my purpose and it just keeps me moving forward or ascending.
Beautiful. Who has inspired you the most?
You know, I've all these mentors I put on the list. The one that keeps popping up for me is my mom. She would always come home, and then even when she wasn't with us for more than like 5 or 10 minutes, but I remember as a kid, she would rub my hair before we go to bed, and it just felt like hours and hours and hours with her, even though it was 5 minutes. And it just made me really feel like what it feels like to be present when your whole focus is on your child, and for 5 minutes it feels like hours. So what it really feels like to be present, it really inspired me to be present in all relationships of my life, to just listen, and just listening, and then giving them the good feelings, like just be me, being who I am, making them feel really good. And the inspiration came from my mom, making me feel really good for just 5 minutes can feel like hours or eternity. So she's my biggest inspiration.
Beautiful. What has life taught you so far?
What has life taught me so far is that life does not happen to me, it happens for me. And when you get that, then you're a very powerful co-creator.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Aaron, is there any last words that you want to share? And also, how can people find you?
I'm going to give you a link to my link tree, and you'll be able to see and access everything that's on there. And everything that's on there, you got full support with emotional regulation, and then healing work as well. So you can find me on there. And the last thing that I want to say is my most powerful quote. I think you're going to love it too. And it led me to where I'm at today, and it led me to doing what I'm doing today, is that I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to love you, and love will teach you. And it does every single time. So it's my closing.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron. I am truly honored to have you on today.
Thank you, Robin. This was a lot of fun. And those last couple of questions, really, I'm going to really be taking that throughout my day. So that's a powerful question. This conversation was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Conversations with Robin. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe and like. Remember, every week we have new guests on our shows. Conversations that empower, inspire, and enlighten.